All right, hello everyone, welcome. Today we have the brand new Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 28, New Powers. Let's go ahead and start off with the cover review as we always do. So for this one, we have Sumari on the cover. We see her holding the Uchiha blade that Boruto asked her to power up or fix after it got chipped. Let's be honest, we don't really care about Sumari here. We know what she looks like. Let's look at the blade here. We get to see some of the new differences with it. First of all, we see that the handle has been re-wrapped. Instead of having just a pure white handle, we see these, I don't know what you want to call it, the black hilt, like peeking out through the white wrapping. We have a new gold end on it. The guard is the exact same. And then we have what I believe is a brand new scabbard. At least I think part of the scabbard has been changed. I know it didn't have this gold tip here at the end before. I don't know if the entire of the scabbard has changed. Like, I don't know if it had that blue band on there before, but I'm pretty sure the entire scabbard has changed. So it seems like a lot of the blade has changed besides the guard. So overall, really cool looking. I like this cover. Colors are nice. Cool to see the sword in color. But let's go ahead and jump right into the chapter. So we got a lot to cover here. First off, we get our first look at Inojin's new jutsu right here on the first page, and can't really tell what's going on here. It's a very weird looking jutsu. It's kind of hard to make out what exactly he's doing with the manga's coloring just being black and white. I feel like there should be something easier to show in like actual color and animation. But basically, we do get an explanation as to what it is here in a little bit. To start off with, they're talking about how the jutsu is mostly complete. Inojin is surprised by this. I guess he wasn't too confident in himself. And Boruto even says that he's impressed that Inojin managed to use the jutsu within one single day. Inojin then turns to Boruto and tells him, "Let's get one thing straight here. I'm only here for the Leaf Village and Himawari. I don't accept you as a teammate yet, alright?" And Boruto got really upset about this, and he tells Inojin, "I haven't accepted you either. And remember, if you make Himawari cry even once, I'll shave your haircut off until you're bald." And with that, he disappears using the Flying Raijin Jutsu. This, of course, confuses Inojin, as he tells Koji, "How dare Boruto act like that? He's the one who ruined the Uzumaki family. What gives him the right to talk about it as though he's still close to them?" And Koji just stays silent, and of course we know this is because of the Omnipotence Jutsu affecting Inojin's mind. He doesn't actually realize that Boruto is Himawari's actual brother, not Kawaki. So it's very funny to see that Boruto is doing the whole protective big brother over people who like his little sister. The whole bit, about that. And yeah, I fully believe Boruto here. If Inojin does anything to Himawari that ends up making her feel sad, mad, angry, or cry, or any emotion other than happy, I fully believe Boruto will actually save Inojin's head. So we'll have to wait and see if that ever happens in the manga, or if something happens like similar to it, like maybe Inojin gets captured by one of the tree clones, Boruto saves him, but in saving him he accidentally cuts off a piece of his hair or something, and he tells him, "I did that because you almost made Himawari sad," or something. Like, I can see this coming back as a joke later, or just as like a nice callback. But regardless, we jump back to the interrogations. It's now Mitsuki's turn to get interrogated. Konohamaru's interrogation is now done, and we get something that I predicted in the last chapter. We actually does come true here. We see Sai contacts the sensor unit and asks them if he can get the records of any communication Konohamaru has had within the past several minutes. They tell Sai that his last transmission was last night at his scheduled check-in. There has been nothing else in the past couple minutes. So Sai was able to tell that Konohamaru was receiving transmissions from someone, and he thought it was within the actual official channels. But now Sai knows that he got an unlicensed transmission to come in. I was talking about how last chapter Sai seemed a little sus about something going on here, and I thought maybe he could somehow sense the sensory unit, or the mind transmission jutsu between Inojin Koji, Shikamaru, and Konohamaru. I thought, you know, maybe he's sensing it somehow. Maybe he has a way of sensing it that Ino taught him. Or maybe it's just his natural intuition on how Konohamaru was acting, and he was able to tell that Konohamaru was receiving a communication. But regardless, he now knows that if someone was communicating with Konohamaru, it was not through official means. And that's where Sai drops it. He doesn't say much else. And now we move on to Mitsuki's part of the interrogation. And they question him about when Boruto made his escape, because if you remember correctly, Mitsuki was in the room and actually caused Boruto to escape by getting rid of the handcuffs on him. But before we get to see any of the interrogation, we then cut to Boruto, who is rocking a somewhat different look. As we see, he actually receives the blade from Sumari already. He managed to fix it up really quite quickly. I did not think we'd get it this fast. But we see that Boruto also looks slightly different. Some people were saying it's a whole new look, but it's actually not. What it is that his outer shirt is just zipped up. The outer shirt that he normally wears, it's zipped up a little bit, or button up. I guess you can't really tell. It looks like a zipper, but it could be a button. But regardless, that's all it is. It's just button up a little bit. It's the exact same shirt he's been wearing, so not too big of a different look. But the main different look is the blade. So we see Sumari talk about the blade, and the material is still the same. The material for the blade, that is still the same. It's just been treated, and its shape was altered to maximize its strength and cutting ability. Boruto comments on how the guard is unchanged, but almost everything else has been remade. And that's not all. Sumari says that the blade is now set to automatically maintain the Uchiha blade jutsu on its own once you grip the hilt and activate the jutsu. So now, Boruto doesn't have to keep it up by himself. Another thing that we predicted last chapter about what changes the sword could receive. This is one of the changes we've talked about, is now Boruto doesn't have to divert focus to the blade and keeping it safe, so that way it doesn't get chipped like it did in the battle against Jura. So now with it just doing this, the blade keeps up the chakra shield around it by itself. And it's only absorbing a small amount of chakra. So it's not going to be draining Boruto constantly and making him worry about Momoshiki being able to take over, or ending up having no karma from using his blade. But Sumari does say that she put in a failsafe. And the failsafe is anyone who is not Boruto or Sasuke, that's important to keep track of. Keyword, Boruto or Sasuke. Anyone whose chakra touches the blade, it will drain all of their chakra very quickly. It's basically a safety feature in case someone tries to steal his blade. So as long as either Boruto or Sasuke are holding it, their chakra won't be drained. Anyone else though, it will not instantly, but it'll basically start draining their chakra very quickly. We saw this happen in pre-time skip when Boruto was using the chakra blade. It's the exact same feature, except here it's actually being used as a defense mechanic rather than it being a failure of the blade itself. Sumari then says that a certain special material has also been compounded into the katana, but we don't get an answer to that because now we skip over to Shikamaru talking to Shikadai, and Shikamaru is telling him about the surprise raid from Mamushi that is arriving. He tells him that Konoha will soon become a battlefield, that he plans to launch an op using the intel that he just told him about, which is basically all the stuff Boruto and Koji have been filling him in on. And Shikadai, of course, is upset that Boruto is being used as an ally because he is the criminal who murdered Lord 7th, murdered Naruto Uzumaki. Why did you forgive him? You can't believe him. How can he still be Hokage while doing this? And Shikamaru tells him that there's something he swore to himself when he accepted the position of the 8th Hokage. That he would be unbending in his convictions, no matter the circumstances, just like Naruto, Lord 7th. And that's what I'm still doing to this day. I'm not compromising, nor am I being pressured into anything. I'm sticking to my beliefs and I'm making the necessary choices in order to protect the Hidden Leaf Village. Boruto's assistance is absolutely essential to fighting divine trees. If you can't accept Shikadai, you don't need to be a part of this op. I'm not going to order you to do this if you don't want to. But if you do leave, You cannot mention what I told to anyone. Make the choice. And Shikadai takes a moment to think about it, and he says he'd rather be ordered, because Himawari is signing up for this, right? She's just like Sarada. They both want to help Boruto. Himawari even became a shinobi in order to help Boruto. Chocho won't let Himawari do this on her own, and neither will Inojin, so they'll both join. But because of that, I'll put my personal feelings about Boruto aside and risk my life as a shinobi to carry out any order given by the current Hokage. So Shikadai is stepping up, putting aside his personal feelings and joining the op, because if so many other people are willing to risk their lives for this, then he should join as well. We then cut to Inojin and Koji. They are talking in the hideout, and I'm gonna kind of just breeze through this because this is basically the same conversation we've had about the permanence ability of seeing into the future. And Koji's just basically explaining to Inojin why he doesn't give them more information, because the more information that's known, the more things can change. He gives them an example. If you had known that you would die in order for Himawari to awaken her powers against Jura, would you have hesitated? If you had hesitated for even a moment, everything could have changed. So I can only give so much information that I believe will lead to the best possible future. And whoever is giving the information, they always must be careful and cautious about how much information and who this information reaches, so that way we can reach the ideal future. And Inojin here shows a little bit of how naive he can be, because he asks Koji, so if you're not telling us much, is it safe to assume, as long as we go with the flow, we're going to be rolling in a good direction, right? And Koji says he never knows if the choice he made is correct or not until I see the outcome. I can only say what I think is vital, and I entrust Shikamaru and Boruto to decide how to handle the battle with the information available to us. The reason why I say Inojin's kind of naive here is because Inojin's assuming that Koji will try to keep everyone safe. But we've kind of already seen that Koji is willing to sacrifice people if it means he thinks it will lead to the better future, such as with the whole fight between Ryu and Matsuri, how he was willing to sacrifice a Sand Shinobi and almost sacrifice Sarada, Mitsuki, and Konohamaru as well, because he didn't want Boruto to intervene. But if Boruto didn't intervene, there would have been more deaths instead of just the one they managed to get away with. So Inojin's being a little naive here and trusting that Koji has everyone's life to be protected. When in reality, Koji's just trying to get to the best future, regardless if it means some lives have to be lost. We then see a nice little sneak peek of some of the alternate or possible outcomes that could be arriving. We see Ada being absorbed into a tree, so this means that in one possible future we could be getting an Ada tree clone, which is very scary to think about. An Ada tree clone with her abilities, that is a very scary enemy. We also see Inojin holding on to the corpse of Himawari, crying. So we see two possible outcomes here: Ada turning into a tree, and also Himawari dying in battle. So these are the outcomes we are trying to avoid. Koji then proceeds to tell Inojin, but I believe that you agree that we ought to at least change any future where Ada and Himawari die, don't you? And Inojin doesn't give an answer here. We just kind of go to the next scene, which is Shikamaru relaying a message to all the people who will be involved in this op against Mamushi. We cut and see Ada, Damon, Sarada, Chocho, Himawari, Shikadai, Konohamaru, Mitsuki, Delta, Kawaki, Amato, Boruto, Sumari. All of these people are in this op. They're all aware of what is going on. Shikamaru proceeds to give them all the rundown, and he starts off by saying why these people were selected. And first, they were selected because they are people who are willing to not be hostile towards Boruto in this upcoming battle. The Hidden Leaf Village still sees Boruto as a foe to be captured and killed. If during Boruto's attempts to fight Mamushi in the Hidden Leaf Village, we're also going to have to deal with the fact that the Hidden Leaf Village themselves are going to try to hinder him. So we're going to need all of you to help support him in this. Second, this is a dedicated line made possible by Inojin's new jutsu, the Mind Transmission Formation. We didn't get to see Filbert. For anyone who doesn't know, Filbert, one of Koji's frogs here. We haven't seen them in a while. I just call all of Koji's frogs Filbert. So we go from one Filbert at the hideout to another Filbert in the Hokage office, and he is relaying video of Inojin's jutsu to Shikamaru, so that way Shikamaru can see the jutsu at work. He talks about how their foe is the divine tree Mamushi, a monster who can divide into multiple beings. Furthermore, he can erase his chakra signature so it can't catch him the old-fashioned way with the village chakra detection network. So that's why Inojin has this new jutsu. And Inojin explains that with this jutsu, you can converse over long distances, identical to the regular mind transmission jutsu, but what's different is that each person who is connected in this mind transmission can be turned into a receiver and be used to sense the vibration of objects in their area. So basically, every object is always emitting vibrations with a unique wave frequency. So this is how they're going to be able to track Mamushi, because he may be able to erase his chakra, but he can't erase the vibrations that he emits. So once Inojin identifies which vibrations are Mamushi, and because his clones are identical, they'll all have the same vibrations, which means once he finds out which one it is, he'll be able to tell exactly where he is within the locations of all the receivers, which is all the people who are included in this mind transfer. After explaining that, I think it is Chocho. It is either Chocho or Himawari. It doesn't really say who. The bubble's kind of right next to both of them. One of them is basically saying, so can you explain how the jutsu works better? And Shikamaru just tells them, don't dwell on it. I'll be the one relaying all the information needed to you guys from the jutsu, rather than you guys having to deal with breaking down the jutsu yourself. Me and Inojin will figure out the number and location of enemies, and just so you know, there's a limit to how many people can be linked via this mind transmission that Inojin's doing. That's another factor that drove you for the selection of this op. So, could they have more people in on the communications if there were? Yes. But Inojin can only include so many people in the transmission. So that's one thing I feel like they wanted to point out, is because I feel like later on in this battle, once more people start converging in on Mamushi, or if Mamushi decides to, bring a large batch of clones from one area, I feel like Inojin's jutsu is going to suffer a little bit, because now, if the entire group is in one area, his range of being able to detect vibrations is going to lower, because he's using the people within the mind transmission jutsu themselves to be the receivers. So if they're all spread out across the Hidden Leaf Village, he can keep an eye on the entire Hidden Leaf Village. But the moment we start converging into one location, his range of detection is going to start dropping off. So I feel like that's one reason why they pointed that out. And it's going to come into effect later in the battle, but we'll have to wait and see if that comes true. Shikamaru then proceeds to tell them how they're going to deal with Mamushi's abilities on this mission, but in reality what we see is now we cut to Mamushi actually appearing in the Hidden Leaf Village right here. Let me pull up the page for you guys. We see him right here in the bottom left panel. In my opinion, Mamushi is one of the creepiest, if not the creepiest, of the tree clones. His design is just very off-putting. I mean, look at this page right here. Look at this panel right here where he's just standing here. Like, this motherfucker's creepy. But basically, he's asking random villagers in the leaf, hey, do you know where I can find Ada? I love how he starts off the sentence. He's like, hey bros, do y'all know where I can find a woman named Ada? He's trying to act so nonchalant about it, but like, I'm sorry, his appearance, it just does not give off a nonchalant look to him. Inojin then proceeds to tell Shikamaru that Mamushi is already within the village. Shikamaru tells him, it's fine, I can see it on the monitor. Relax, Inojin. Focus on your jutsu, make sure you don't disturb it. He then proceeds to tell Boruto what area Mamushi's in. He's in area 36 of Sector C. 8 of them already. Mamushi has already made 8 clones. And now Koji is telling Boruto that the keyhole is the closest symbol, and then Boruto teleports to the frog holding the keyhole medal. So we got a whole squad here working together. We got Shikamaru and Inojin tracking down Mamushi. We got Koji with his frogs all over the Hidden Leaf Village with certain symbols, so that way Boruto can teleport to wherever he needs to. We got a nice little setup going here. We got people ready to go on support with Sarada, Kawaki, and all them. And we see Boruto instantly jumping into action. Shikamaru's upset because Mamushi is here several days earlier than predicted. And Koji proceeds to say, "I've already said fate has started to shift from what I saw." Kawaki's upset and is getting ready to set out. We see Ada feeling gross because she now knows that her assassin is here to take her on. And Daemon tells her, "Don't worry, I won't let him even touch you." But there's something to note here real quick before we move on. We've already seen that there is a possible outcome where Ada gets killed or gets turned into a tree clone. So Mamushi must have some way of dealing with Daemon, because all this time we've all been basically setting up Daemon to be this unstoppable force that no one can defeat. And he's the ultimate protector of Ada. But we've already seen an outcome where somehow Ada does get got. So what exactly happens to Daemon that prevents him from being able to protect Ada? So that's something to keep track of here. Just because Daemon's here doesn't mean Ada's safe. We know he can be bypassed now. The only question is, how exactly does that happen? Sarada is also with these two, and she gets up and announces that she's going to head out to back up Boruto. And Shikamaru tells her to wait. Given the nature of Mamushi's abilities, they expect them to be separating himself all over the Hidden Leaf Village to improve his search range for Ada. So he wants multiple people in multiple locations around the Hidden Leaf Village in case Mamushi pops up. So he sends Team 10, which is Chocho, Himawari, and Shikadai, to Sector D, and he sends Team 7 over to Sector B in the north. Team 7 would be Sarada, Konohamaru, and Mitsuki. He then contacts Mitsuki and asks him what's his status. Mitsuki is still in the interrogation room. He says that he doubts they'll be releasing him anytime soon, if he should find a way to force himself out. And Shikamaru says, I don't want you to end up provoking them. Just wait for an opening. Take advantage of any chaos if it happens to get out. I'll try to think of something too to get you out quicker. And Mitsuki basically says, Roger. We then cut back to Shikamaru. He's saying that Mamushi's target is Ada, which we've known. He's basically just telling everyone keep themselves ready to move to Ada's location at any moment's notice, and Ada is in Sector A in the east. Boruto will be traveling to each spot using the Flying Raijin technique. Kawaki provides support as needed. Kawaki has also taken off. He's now in the air flying around the Hidden Leaf Village as well. We go back to Mamushi, who's talking to those two Hidden Leaf residents, and he tells them, they tell him, Miss Ada's location we'd love to know too, but we don't know. Who's this freak anyways? We then see that Mamushi is also above them on a porch, and Mamushi tells his clones, hey, feel free to kill these two, but don't destroy any buildings. I don't want to get yelled at by Jura. Remember, Jura doesn't want the Hidden Leaf Village destroyed, touched, or anything. So, Mamushi here is a little bit of a disadvantage because he has to be careful. He doesn't want to upset Jura and have Jura possibly go after him or stop his plan to go after Ada right now. We then continue. Mamushi's clone basically says, look, if you don't know anything, then we're done. Sorry to bother you, and he starts to walk off. The two residents ask him to wait, but as they turn around to tell Mamushi to wait, Boruto arrives, drops down, pulls out the blade, and cuts Mamushi's head into two, cutting off the head from the body as well as destroying the eyes. Because remember, you have to destroy the eyes of these clones because Mamushi can see through the eyes. So in order to really make sure these clones stay down, you got to make sure you take out their eyes as well. Mamushi, who is waiting on the porch, sees all of this. Boruto then tells the two residents, if you don't want to die, I suggest you get lost. The two residents are shocked to see that Boruto is here, and then we see more of Mamushi's clones appearing out of the one who is on the porch. He drops them down to attack Boruto immediately. Boruto manages to block the blow with his sword. The two residents freak out and they proceed to run, asking, why is Boruto here? We don't know, but we need to alert the police force. We then cut back to Boruto, slicing the eyes of another clone. Boruto is just going to work here. He does proceed to get smacked in the back though and get thrown against a building. And then two of the clones decide to use a fireball or fire style jutsu attack on Boruto. Boruto quickly sheathes his sword, and then we see him get enveloped within the flames. And then we get the biggest reveal of the chapter here on the next page. The two Mamushi clones start to fight because they're setting buildings on fire, which is destroying a Hidden Leaf village, which is exactly what they wanted to avoid because of Jura. But before the fires can do any damage, they start getting absorbed, and then we see Boruto's hand. And on his hand, we see the karma. The Mamushi clones pick up on this, noticing that the karma is activated, and the chapter ends with Boruto commenting that he cannot get used to this weird, itchy feeling when he absorbs things with the karma. What a chapter. This is definitely one of the best chapters of the series so far. We get a lot of setup. We get the whole battlefield basically set up for us. Now it's time to see how this all goes down, and we finally get the return of Boruto using his karma. Now that he's made that deal with Momoshiki, it seems like he's willing to let it rip when he needs to. And can I say, this design looks great. I always love the way the karma looks, and it continues to look great here. I really love the way it looks over his closed eye with the scar. The scar not being hidden by the black mark of the karma, it just shines through it. Such a cool looking design. I'm excited to see how much Boruto actually uses the karma here. Maybe he's only going to use it to absorb the flame right here, and then he's going to turn it right back off, or maybe he's going to keep it on throughout this entire battle against Mamushi. Who knows? Regardless, I am hyped. So with that being said, I mean, there's not much more to say about this chapter. I feel like we've gone through most of it. I do feel like Inojin's jutsu is definitely to be put to the test here. I feel like Mamushi is going to try to converge the battlefield down, or at least try to force everyone to appear in one location, and then send his clones out wildly, or maybe one of his clones are going to be able to slip away due to the fact that Inojin's vibrations are going to be converged in one location. I just feel like the fact that they pointed out the way the vibrations work, that's the obvious weakness of the technique, so I feel like Mamushi's going to find a way to exploit that. I do wonder if we're going to see how Damon gets bypassed here. Because maybe Ada doesn't get killed here, but maybe Damon still gets bypassed, so we can see what his weakness is, or how exactly Mamushi plans to get around him. I don't think Himawari will be in too much danger here. I feel like that'll be the one thing that kind of gets completely prevented. So I don't think we're going to see Himawari in too much danger. I think the one here who we still really got to keep an eye on is Ada and Damon. What else is there really to say here? I'm just looking at this Boruto Karma, man. Like, this looks so cool. The Karma is such a cool power-up design-wise, in my opinion. Like, it's one of the best things to come out of the Boruto series is the Karma. It always looks so good, in my opinion. Amato was featured to be in the transmission jutsu, so it's interesting to see that Amato is willing to work with everyone, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Obviously, Boruto's sword has a secret to it, because Sumire did say that there's another material that's been implemented into the sword, but we didn't get told what it is, so it'll be interesting to see what exactly the sword's able to do now. Maybe the sword is also able to absorb jutsus by itself without Boruto needing to use the Karma. Granted, you would think they would have shown it there rather than Boruto using the Karma, but maybe it's like a secret last resort thing. I don't know. You have to think, what kind of shinobi tech have we seen in the series? And there's a lot of examples of stuff that can be brought in from the anime, so who knows what exactly the sword what secrets it's hiding. Hell, for all we know, maybe the sword can summon Nue. That would be crazy if the sword is able to summon Nue. Or maybe there's some material within the sword that's able to completely prevent Mamushi from making more clones. I feel like that might be a little bit too convenient, so maybe not. But regardless, I'm excited for the next chapter. We're going to be getting a lot of action, I feel like. Mamushi, really, he's already off to a great start. I'm glad he's being taken serious as a villain because, like I said earlier, he's definitely the creepiest one out of the batch for them, in my opinion. His design is just so unsettling. Cool to see that Shikamaru is getting more people to kind of help Boruto, even if they don't exactly trust him. And overall, I think they have been... I've said this before, but I really do feel like the time skip has been handling the side characters much better than the pre-time skip did, because even though Boruto and Kawaki are still the strongest here, the side characters are still getting their chance to shine, because like Inojin's jutsu is being used to track people down, Shikamaru's using his intelligence here to map out the entire battlefield. This is basically a chess match between Shikamaru and Mamushi, or I guess you could say a shogi match. Or Shikamaru using his pieces of Inojin, Boruto, Kawaki, Sarada to move them all around and try to capture Mamushi, who keeps cheating and putting down more shogi pieces on the field, even though he's already lost a couple. He just keeps grabbing more from the backup box and putting them on the field. It's just, there's a lot going on here, and I'm glad to see that the side characters are being used greatly. Like, if you had told me pre-time skip, or like pre-time skip chapters, that Inojin was gonna have this big of a role in one of the battles, I would have told you were a liar. But here we are. He's basically one of the key, he is the key component of this battle. Without them, they will very easily fail here, so very excited how for this is going. Gonna be interesting to see what exactly Mitsuki can get to do here, since he's going to be delayed. Delta's on field, so maybe Delta will get a moment here. I wonder if Shikadai could possibly get a big moment here, since Shikadai was shown to be doubting at first. But regardless, let me know what you guys think of the chapter below. I overall think this is an easy 8 out of 10 at the least. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10 though. Really good chapter, a lot of great setup here for hopefully a really good payoff in the chapters to come. But overall, thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, God bless, happy reading, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.